The marine and blue economy entails the sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth to improve livelihoods, create jobs, while preserving the health of marine and coastal ecosystems. With a capacity to generate a global revenue of more than 1.5 trillion naira annually, 30 million jobs, and supply vital sources of protein to over 3 million people, the idea of creating the ministry was to help drive Nigeria's diversification from a mono economy. In a review of the sector, Norma Obi Aswalo reports that despite its potential, stakeholders still await a clear policy direction amid some highs and lows in 2024.
Win for the maritime industry was the end of an almost 3-decade struggle to ensure good welfare and a dignified exit condition for workers in the shipping sector. The historic event saw the signing of the minimum wage agreement midwifed by the Nigerian Shippers Council and witnessed by the Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Adegboyega Oyetola, and other major stakeholders.
I want to employ the employers to please keep strictly to the conditions of this agreement. I don't want us to just sign it for the fun of it. It has to be properly implemented. And I commend the Shippers Council for creating the time to really midwife this agreement. It's something that everybody is very proud of. And I must commend the leadership of the union, led by Adeyanju, for ensuring peace reigns, within the maritime industry.
But months after the signing, how has compliance been? The president of the shipping arm shares the story after.
No company has paid as at now. The professor is that those who did not even pay up to that, take home everything, up to now, no company has complied.
2024 also saw the spotlight being beamed on the endemic gridlock and extortion around the Nigerian ports and its access routes following an expose by New Central's Maritime Radar program and other key stakeholders. It spurred the Nigerian Ports Authority and the Lagos State government to action to reduce the menace on the port access to the barest minimum. An axis that had become a death trap crippled businesses, reduced productivity, increased transportation costs, hindered economic diversification, and paralyzed international trade. A laudable initiative in 2024 was President Bola Tinubu's approval of 0% import duty on basic food items. However, the scheme never took effect. Stakeholders cited challenges such as lack of coordination, unclear directives, and more.
Yeah, when Mr. President announced it, I actually clapped. But after that, my happiness just evaporated.
How? Why?
Yeah, because I looked at the implementation, and my fear is actually now becoming a reality. When you say we have issues of poverty, we have issues of starvation, and the government in a magnanimity saying that, okay, bring in food items, we are making it zero duty. The Ministry of Finance is making it cumbersome. Because whatever Ministry of Finance dishes to Customs is what Customs implement. Customs does not have power to do that. The Ministry of Finance now has put in pegs to say, okay, you must be so. You must be somebody who has registered with the Ministry of Finance, who have been bringing in food items before. You must be somebody who has registered with. Before you know it, that 90 days window will close, and that food raw material will not still come to Nigeria.
The Nigerian Coast Guard Bill, designed to enhance Nigeria's maritime security and regional cooperation in adherence to international maritime standards, was initiated and scaled second reading in the House of Representatives. The proposed legislation aims to safeguard Nigeria's maritime interests and uphold regional coastal security by aligning with international standards and norms for maritime security and enforcing relevant laws within Nigeria's maritime zones, helping to preserve lives and property. The bill, however, generated divergent views from stakeholders.
What is calibration? Because both are two arms of the Nigerian government, and therefore there's need to collaborate. Nobody's competing for space. Everybody can work together and achieve what they want to achieve. So both parties can come together, and I believe strongly that there will be a collaboration, because whether we like it or not, the core of the Coast Guard officers are going to come from the Nigerian Navy, and therefore they must collaborate to see for the success of it for the good of all Nigerians.
It's a duplication is not threatening the existence of the Navy, but is trying to do. In fact, the duplication of the Navy roles have been on the bill for the past 10 years. There was a time in which Nemasa said it was responsible and has a strategy called C4, I4, and R. Those were the strategic naval strategy for containing all the threats that we experience as a maritime state. Those are the strategies that the Navy churned out. And what did we find a week or two after? Nemasa adopted it as their own maritime strategy.
The Day of the Seafarers celebration didn't see government's clear plan to address the many challenges facing these unsung heroes. In the same way, also the World Maritime Day failed to address the regional and global issues. With the pace of development witnessed in the Marine and Blue Economy Ministry in 2024, stakeholders are unsure of what the next 3 years holds for an industry whose development is expected to reduce Nigeria's reliance on oil exports and increase the contribution of the marine sector to nations' gross domestic product. 2024 is ending with ports failing infrastructure, debt-trapped quay aprons, congestion, cargo delays and decline, inefficiencies and no clear direction from the ministry on how it intends to harness the country's ocean resources. In Lagos, for News Central, Norma Obiaswalo.
Let's have a conversation on the back of that report. I am now joined by former Director General, Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Temisan Omatseye. Thank you very much for joining us on the news. I don't know if you followed that report by Norma, but would you say it captured some of the key issues in the sector for the year 2024? And what will be most of the highlights for you?
Quite a bit of the issues. Thank you for having me. I do believe quite strongly that the focus of which I believe the marine and blue economy is supposed to be focused on is not. The core function of the marine and blue economy is basically to develop indigenous shipping, which covers the increase of the Nigerian tonnage and build up on that. And there's been no clear-cut policy guideline as it relates to building that sector of the economy. Really and truly, if you do not build a very strong blue economy, which relates to the issue of vessel acquisition, definitely you are playing a very back role. The Nigerian economy is dependent on a lot of things, solid mineral, oil and gas, and whatever. And we must actually, as a country, begin to take control of the logistics and shipping of these goods, rather than leaving it in control of foreign hands. And really and truly, as it stands at the moment, there's been no clear direction as to do that. Most importantly is that Nigeria continues to remain a country that does not have a maritime policy or a maritime strategy. Without that, we are basically just at the beck and call of any minister who decides what he wants to do. We must have a clear-cut direction, and we must have clear-cut KPIs. And unfortunately, we do not have that in the industry, and we just sit down and just wait for any dictates that comes from the ministry, and it may not necessarily be the interest of not only Nigerian, but also the indigenous stakeholders who are party to it.
Let's extend that a bit. I mean, it's been established already that opportunities abound in Nigeria's blue economy. How then do you think we can begin to explore the opportunities beyond the traditional shipping and port operations?
Basically, like I said, we can work very strongly, especially on the manpower development, and basically having more seafarers, which you can use as an export. There's a major shortage in the world of seafarers, and we have a lot of young Nigerians who are very available and can be actually sent around the world. We can compete quite competitively against the likes of the Philippines and possibly India, where they have a lot of seafarers coming from. In addition to that, we also need to take advantage of the issue of tourism in our waters. The Nigerian water, just a few kilometers out, is very calm waters, and a lot of fisheries activities, most especially as it relates to dolphins and deep sea diving and things that actually interest a lot of people can actually happen. So the tourism industry is an area which we need to look at. Also the fishery industries, the aquaculture, whereby we can begin to develop our fisheries. So there are quite a lot of things that need to happen out there, not necessarily just relying purely on oil and gas. There are a lot of things, and we're very very strong coastal states, and I believe very strongly that we should be able to make it competitively in the world and also use it as a means to grow our economy and also create employment and also build the necessary revenue that we need very much in our country called Nigeria.
Going into 2025, what strategic steps, actions, or perhaps policies will drive the industry and position it on the path of growth?
Well, as much as possible, we need to take government a lot more out of the governance of our maritime sector. The maritime sector is supposed to be more of a private sector driven. So there needs to be a lot more public-private partnership. The public servants basically are just there basically to set policies in place. But I think what needs to happen a lot more now, there needs to be a lot more engagement and also more engagement on the private sector. The funding of the maritime sector cannot come from government. It has to come from the private sector. And it depends a lot more on the cargoes. The cargoes are already available. What government needs to do is to take its hand a lot more off the issue, focus on regulatory issues, making sure the issue of safety is there, but also hand over the financing, the funding, and the operation of the sector to the private sector, most especially as it relates to the ports. We need to look at how we can develop more deep sea ports. We need to look at how we can develop more shipping, more vessels. We need to have a better turnaround time of containers on our ports so that our port become more efficient. Yes, we are more import dependent right now, but we need to look at how we can begin to look at our ports. We have so focused on bringing in things, we're not looking a lot more, how do we begin to export goods so that our balance of trade is more on the positive side than where it is negative, where we're relying a lot more on imports than on exports.
Thank you for speaking with us.